Hello everyone and welcome to SysKit webinar. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you'll all learn something new today. Now today's webinar topic is SharePoint performance monitoring with SysKit, but before we jump onto that, let's start with a short introduction. My name is Silvio and I'm a product marketing manager at Acceleratio. Here with me we have Frane, the SysKit product owner, who will also be holding a demo later on. You can say hello to our attendees, Frane.
Hello guys.
Now, as most of you already know, Acceleratio is a software development company based in Croatia, and we specialize in creating software solutions for platforms like SharePoint, Windows servers, Citrix, Office 365, and other platforms alike. Now, wait a second. Now, we currently have more than 2,000 customers across the globe, and many of them are big name customers such as Intel, Coca-Cola, Lego. I guess you can recognize plenty of logos from our slide. There is one more thing I would like to mention, and that is the fact that many of customers that bought some of our products later came and bought another one. Now, speaking about products, here you can see the full palette of them. We have SysKit, SP Docket, CloudKit 365, and SQL Docket. In case you'd like to know more about any of these products, feel free to roam our company page or contact our sales. They will present you with all the information you require. Now I'm gonna get you through the short agenda of this webinar. First, we're gonna have some housekeeping rules, and I'm gonna tell you how you can ask questions with this GoToWebinar applications. Then we're gonna have a short overview of SysKit, followed by an overview of SharePoint performance monitoring with SysKit. Later, our Frane here will hold a live demo of SharePoint performance monitoring, and that will be followed by Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Now, first, housekeeping rules. A recording of this webinar will be made available on our webinars page, and it will be available in a day or two. All attendees of this webinar will receive a 15% discount of SysKit purchase. All you need to do is contact our sales, and they will settle this offer for you right ahead. Now, we've also reserved 10 minutes at the end of the webinar for all your questions that we will answer. Speaking of questions, to ask a question regarding the webinar with the GoToWebinar application, all you need to do is open the Q&A box and type in your questions. All of them will be answered by our product team after the all of them will be answered by our product team, but the most interesting one will be answered in the last 10 minutes of the webinar in our Q&A session. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with SysKit, I'm gonna do a little introduction. SysKit is a server monitoring tool that focuses on helping consultants and system admins in their everyday tasks. Now, with SysKit you can easily monitor server performance, monitor user activity on your servers, and monitor application usage. You can also track your entire system inventory, generate server documentation, and track your licenses. Basically, you can audit all events that happen on your servers. It is also important to mention that SysKit is an agentless tool, meaning you can monitor your entire system using just one single console. And that means there is no need to install any agents anywhere else on the servers. There is also a SysKit web application available, and it enables you to monitor your servers from anywhere. All you need is a browser and internet access. Continuing on to SysKit, all of the SysKit reports can easily be exported to Excel or PDF format for better presentation to your end users. You can also set up real-time alerts and intelligent alerting on SysKit, meaning that SysKit will notify you whenever something unusual happens on your server and you should really know about it. I would also like to mention that server performance monitoring is one of the most important SysKit features, since it enables you to monitor all existing performance counters for all server roles, and you can track them in real time and you can track them historically, and that's kind of big thing, especially if you're a SharePoint admin and this means you can track all SharePoint performance counters. I should also mention that we have a system audit that enables you to monitor failed logins, block IP addresses, and review file access. So now that you know what SysKit is, let's start with SharePoint performance monitoring. First, the important thing you need to know is that SysKit enables you to monitor performance counters for various Microsoft products and various server roles. And since our focus today is on, well, SharePoint, you'll be glad to hear that this includes all SharePoint performance counters and for all SharePoint server roles. Now, these performance counters I'm talking about can be tracked in real time and historically, and you can easily compare them across different servers or across different time periods. It is all easily doable using our graphs and our interface. Now, next, we're going to talk about the SharePoint server roles. You see, SysKit enables you to create monitoring templates for different SharePoint server roles. For example, you can have a search server role or web front-end server role, and the catch is that for each of those SharePoint roles, not just the two of them, but for any, you should monitor specific services and specific performance counters. For example, if you have web front-end servers, you're going to need to track all performance counters that have something to do with the IIS component. And for all those templates I'm talking about, whether you created them or whether they come as a default, you can customize their thresholds, and you can easily set up SysKit to perform different actions. By that SysKit actions, I mean you can receive alerts when certain values of certain performance counters get too high or get too low. Or to make even better example, you can set up SysKit to automatically restart any stopped service for you. For example, the SharePoint timer service is a problematic service and it tends to shut down sometimes, and it is very essential for SharePoint functioning to have it running all the time. In case it stops, SysKit will simply start it back and send you a notification that he did that. And that's very nice of him, right? So let's go on. A second. Now, SysKit always tends to make your tasks as easier as possible. The same case we have here, when detecting SharePoint's performance problems is quite a task. For that matter, SysKit enables you to simply drill deeper into the source of the issue until you are satisfied with some kind of result you have and you can fix the given problem. All kind of troubled SharePoint servers, problematic counters, services, they're all very easy to spot with SysKit, as you will see in our demo, which will be held by Frane soon. And all you have to do to get to the bottom of the problem is just drill down by double-clicking and double-clicking on it. Now, there is also some important information and best practices about SysKit SharePoint performance monitoring that I would like to share with you. And I'm just going to run through them like really quick now. What you can see here are the most important SharePoint performance counters and their recommended threshold values. As you can see, they're green for good, yellow for you should be on caution, and red means trouble. And for each of those metrics, in case they get into the danger zone or red zone or however you want to call it, it can significantly boggle down your entire SharePoint performance. So that is something you're not going to want to happen, and you're going to want to keep an eye on these guys. So continuing on best practices, here are the most important services you should be monitoring on your SharePoint farms. For example, the last one on the list is World Wide Web Publishing Service. And that one is a very important service in case you have web front-end service. You're gonna keep an eye on that one. Next to those critical services are the few Windows event IDs that you should pay attention to when checking your event logs. So that's kind of all from me for now, and Frane will now be presenting you a live demo of SharePoint performance monitoring with SysKit. Over to you, Frane.
Okay, give me just a moment to change a presenter. Show my application. Okay. Silvio, can you see my
Yes,
screen?
I can see your screen.
Okay, great. Now, enough of the PowerPoint. Let's start with the real deal. Let's start with the application. So basically everything that Silvio told you in the PowerPoint, I will try to provide a hands-on demo. So we will see some of the examples on what you need to do with what you can do with the application. So this is a SysKit. This is a console that you install. So one of the questions we already have is what is the overhead on the SharePoint server? So basically, when you install the SysKit, you install it on a dedicated server, and then you can add all your servers from the domain. So you can add multiple SharePoint farms, multiple SQL servers, multiple web frontends or app servers. Then inside the application, so for this demo, we have only one SharePoint farm, but you get the idea. You can organize different SharePoint farms inside the SysKit, and then from single location, you can monitor all the different SharePoint farms. It can be production, non-production, UAT, whatever you have. When you install the SysKit, we do not. So this is important, as we do not deploy any agent on your SharePoint or SQL or our web front-end servers, application servers, whatever. So we are using existing WMI and TS APIs to get all this different information from the SharePoint farms. Now, when you add the servers in the SysKit, so basically adding of the servers is through the simple wizard. Application connects to the domain controller. You just click the servers you want to see, and that's about it. When you add the servers, then you need to define the monitoring templates. So the monitoring templates is something like a role, and basically every server has its own role. So for example, a monitoring template for the SQL server, you will assign to the SQL servers, SharePoint to the web frontend and application servers, or you can create your own monitoring templates, or you can use our existing. The question that we already had from the audience is how we define these different numbers for the different templates that we have in the application. So we closely worked with Microsoft, and basically we have a lot of recommendation that is implemented out of the box when you install the application. So Microsoft told us what numbers we need to have, and we implemented that in the application. So when you install it, when you start to monitor your servers, basically all the numbers you have here are coming from the Microsoft recommendations. So let me show you what this means. So, for example, the SQL Server, this is the list of predefined performance counters, and these are the numbers that Microsoft told us that it needs. So these are the numbers that are thresholds for the warning or critical values for every particular SQL Server you are monitoring. This is a predefined template, and basically everything that you see on this screen comes already with the SysKit. And then, of course, if you need to tweak any value that you see here, you can easily modify whatever value you want. And what is important, so a monitoring template is something that you assign to each server. So a monitoring template is something that you assign to the SQL Server. So it's a collection of the performance counters that are important for the SQL Server, and also the Windows services that are important for that particular server. So, for example, this monitoring template can extract various counters from the SQL Server, and then you can add in the application also to monitor the SQL Server services. So just in case something goes wrong with the SQL Server service, you can configure the application to auto-start that service that for whatever reason stopped, and then the SysKit will send you automatic alert that something is going on with, for example, SQL Server or the IIS service or whatever else, and then it will try to start it and it will automatically alert you. So for each server role, you can define which services you want to restart. So for example, for this server role, I have just selected few SQL servers, and basically the application is now monitoring the SQL services on these servers as well. Of course, you can fine-tune how often you want to configure application to monitor the services, to repeat notification after, or maybe not to restart the service or something like that. Okay, let's move on. So when you define the monitoring template, then you assign it to the server, and then the monitoring can start. So for this monitoring templates, I have created just few demo servers, and I have assigned SQL to the SQL servers and the other stuff to the other web frontend and application servers. So let's move on to the performance reports, so you can get an overview how that looks like when we extract the data from the servers. So this is a central dashboard, and basically this is a collection of all your different SharePoint farms. So in this example, I have only one SharePoint farm, but basically you can add unlimited computers, and you can logically group the computers inside the farm, so basically you can create whatever you want. So for example, for this SharePoint farm, so this is a central dashboard where you see all the farms, all the servers, and the top CPU usage for the top CPU servers, memory usage, disk usage, and how many alerts each farm generated. So for example, let's drill down into the red to see what exactly you can do with the application. So just like all the other server performance monitoring applications, we extract data from the WMI, but what we are able to do is you are able not to drill down to the server, but you are able to drill down to the specific process. So for example, on the SQL Server, you will see that SQL Server process, SQL Server is generating a lot of transactions or logs, or for example, on the SharePoint server, you will see that IIS is using a lot of disk I/O or something like that. So basically, the idea is to drill down on every specific process on the server, and then to show you the performance of that particular process. So for example, let's select the SQL Server. So the SQL Server in this example is in red. Let's drill down. So after the dashboard, when you double click on the red server, then it shows you the overview for that specific server. And now on this computer overview, we have the most important information about the server. So the CPU usage, the memory, how much of the memory is used, all the hard disks that you have on that particular SQL Server network, of course, top processes that are using the CPU, and of course this is something that is most important for the SharePoint farms, is basically you can drill down to every specific role on that particular server. So for example, on this particular SQL server, we can drill down and we can check that, for example, so I have just defined, for example, here transactions per sec to show the red value after, I believe, 300, and basically this, when you drill down in this particular SQL server, you will be able to see all the databases that are sitting on the SQL server and how much each database is generating transactions per second. So you can see on this particular server we have a lot of databases. So this is the total value for all the databases on the server. And if we scroll down, we will see that, for example, this is just a demo environment. So we created that a lot of transactions is being used by the temp DB on the SQL server. And you can check the same for the services, for the networking, for the disks, whatever you defined for the template, or if you use the predefined template, this is something that it will show in your environment. So let's go back. Let me show you how that looks like, for example, on the SharePoint server. So on the web, on one of the web front ends. So we see, so this SP1 contoso.local is one of the web front ends in this small SharePoint farm. So if we click again on the red and then double click on this specific web front end server, again the status will be red, and on this dashboard value that is in red will alert you that something is going on with that specific performance counter on the SharePoint web frontend. So let's drill down into the SharePoint web service. So we have two here. One is memory, one is web service. Let's drill down on the web service, and the counter anonymous users is telling us that 200 users per second are trying to access the IIS server. And this is anonymous users, so maybe something strange is going on as unauthenticated users are trying to access, for whatever reason, the SharePoint farm. So you maybe want to check what is going on here. And of course, if you want to see the current connections or whatever else you have defined, you can just drill down into each server and then to check what exactly is going on with the server. Okay, so what else is important? Let me go back to the dashboard. Is alerts. So every threshold when SharePoint server is, or SQL server or whatever, is over defined threshold, then the application generates an alert. An alert can be seen in the application, it can be sent to the email, whatever you define in the application. So for example, here we can see exactly in which particular time, which server, and what is the source of the alert that has generated this specific alert. So basically, if for example, overnight something is going on with the SharePoint server and you receive, let's say, 10 or 20 alerts or something like that, then you want to log on to the server and you want to check what exactly, so you want to have in one place what exactly are the performance counters that basically triggered that different alerts. And what is, let me go back once again, and this is what is important for the SharePoint farms, is basically drilling down to the processes that are used. Let me go to the real time. So basically the application is when we connect to the SP1, and let's select all applications. And basically what we are doing is when we are extracting data from the SharePoint farm, we are extracting data about each specific server role. And then, of course, this is important to understand the exact process that used a lot of the CPU, memory, disk operations, or something like that. So, for example, you can just sort in this example that on this particular server IS worker process has been using this much of the resources. And for example, you can, so this is important metric, the disk IOPS, and basically you can check that, for example, Microsoft SharePoint Foundation process has been using a lot of the disk IOPS. So that is, I don't want to go a lot into details. So basically, I would like to answer a lot of questions that you guys have. So this is just a simple overview of what application is able to do regarding the SharePoint performance. So basically the main idea is to add all the different SharePoint servers that you have, and the main idea is to have all the servers under one umbrella. So from one central monitoring console, you can monitor all the servers, you can check the alerts, you can check what is going on with the CPU, with the memory, and for example, even today we saw with our customers that one of the most important counters that you need to track on the SQL servers is the disk space usage, because even today when disk space is so cheap, sometimes happen that a SQL server runs out of the space. Okay, so Silvio, do you want, I will change a presenter to you, and then you can finish the presentation, and then we will start with the questions, okay?
Okay, Frane, just switch back to me.
Okay.
Frane just demonstrated the benefits of monitoring SharePoint performance with SysKit, and it is now time for the Q&A session. I will repeat that all of your questions will be answered by our product team, and some of them will be answered right now in like a minute or so by our SysKit product owner. In case you are interested in a one-on-one demo of this product, you are free to contact our sales team and they will arrange everything for you. Now we are going to read and answer a couple of interesting questions from you, audience. Frane, are you ready?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so we have a question. What gap does this tool fulfill that is not in the SharePoint 2013? So basically, as you saw, we are trying to have a central overview of all your farms in the central locations. So basically, there are other tools, but we are trying, so the most important thing that we believe that our customers must have is this agentless monitoring, so ability to extract the data without installing anything on the SharePoint servers, and basically to have a centralized location for all your logs. So there is a question how this is different from the Microsoft Performance Monitor. Is basically the Performance Monitor is a tool from Microsoft, and of course when you connect that is native in Windows, and of course when you connect to all the different servers, you can have a lot of different values from the SQL, for the web front-end application servers, whatever else. But the important thing right here is to keep a log. So I have not showed you this. Silvio, I will just change the presenter mode back to me for a sec. Show. Okay. So whatever you have in the application, so this is the real time. But basically, if something is going on in your particular, in your farm, you want to have the historical data for all the processes or all the different counters and stuff like that. So the backend for our application is the SQL Server database, and all this is basically all this information that you see is basically in the backend in the SQL Server. So you can go back, for example, this is only for today, but you can go back 2 days ago. This is a demo environment, so I do not have a lot of data, but you get the idea. The idea is to collect the different data from the different counters, and then over time you can check the trends, what is going with the CPU, what is going on with the disk, or trends for the disk free space, for all the disks on the SQL servers and stuff like that. Okay, let me take another question. What about the overheads on the platform? So as I said, the tool is installed on the data. So we recommend it can be, of course, installed on the member server of the SharePoint farm. But if you have large environment or multiple farms, we recommend to install the tool on the dedicated server. And then basically all the processing, all this that you see on the screen is uploaded to the Citrix server, to the SysKit server. So everything that we do in the SQL database, all the data that we capture is when we get the data from the remote server, then we process it on the SysKit server, and then we store that data in the database. Okay, let me check another question. So yes, from Stefan, there is a question about the numbers that we have in the templates. As I said, we worked closely with Microsoft, and these are the numbers that come from the Microsoft. So these are recommended values that you need to track, and basically this is something that is available on the TechNet or various articles or something like that. Windows services, Silvio had that in one of the slides. So basically all the services that are important for the like IIS, SQL Server, Search, or Timer Job or something else, that is something that we add in the application, and then we are monitoring those services as well. Can you check authenticated users? Of course, like I said, so this is anonymous users, for example, but we can really easily edit the counter, and then basically the application connects to the, for example, this is the SQL server, but if we select the web front-end server, the application connects to that particular server, it extracts all the performance counters, and then basically you can just select authenticated users on that particular SharePoint farm. Okay, let me check else. What are the email alerting options? So you can define whatever you want. So basically all the thresholds that you defined here can be, so let me just go back really quickly to the authenticated users. And so this is under, it's somewhere here. I'm not able to find it, but you get the idea. You can use whatever you want that is available on the SharePoint servers. Email alerting options is if you edit the particular template, we can go to the configured templates, and then basically you can fine-tune which, if you want to receive alerts about the counters, about services, to which email addresses, how often, whatever you want with the email alerting options. Okay. What are the key advantages of SysKit over SCOM? So this is something that we get asked a lot. So as I said, the SCOM is a server monitoring application, and basically with the SysKit you can fine-tune the performance reports, and what is the most important, you can drill down to the exact process, and then you can see what is going on with that particular process. So the customization is available. The application, when you install it, comes with only few basic settings, but of course you can fine-tune it. And then what we think about the SysKit is you don't need to take a training of 2 or 3 weeks as you need for the SCOM to install it and configure it. Basically, when you download application from the internet, you can have it up and running in 5 to 10 minutes. So the application is really simple. It drills down to the application, and then basically you can check application performance for each process that you have on your servers. What service account or privileges must this run under? Does the service account need local permissions on the service, on the SP servers? Yes. So the service account does not need to be the farm admin. Just to extract all this various data, we need to have a server, a member of a local administrator security group on each server. Basically, as the application, as I said, is agentless, this is the only requirement. We need to have the local admin permissions on the server in order to extract this data from the WMI and TS API and all the various sources that we use for the application. Again, there is a question if the tool resides on the SharePoint server. No, you install the tool on the dedicated server, or you can install it also on for example, on the web frontend. But idea is to have it on the dedicated server and then to gather data remotely. Can we get the full copy for evaluation? Of course. The copy, the 30-day full 30-day trial is available on our website. So everything you need to go is go to syskit.com, register for the free trial, and you have 30 days to fully test drive the application. So everything that you see here is available in the trial. The trial is only time limited, nothing else. And then tomorrow, if you decide to move forward with the application, everything that you configured for your template services, farms, servers, whatever, when you purchase it, you just enter a key, and then the trial converts to the full version of the application. How large can this log database grow for one farm? So usually the application is using, so from our customer experiences, so on the SharePoint farm for about few servers, let's say 2 web frontends, 2 app and 2 SQL servers, the application is using usually 40 megabytes of data per server per month, but of course it really depends on the activity of your SharePoint servers. Of course, we have a retention policy, so you can, by default, nothing is deleted from the database, but after a while you can configure application, let's say, to delete the data after 6 months, 1 year, or whatever, the old data that you do not need. Let me just check how does licensing works. So the licensing is per server. Of course, if you are existing customer, let us know, and if you like the application, just contact the sales team, and they will have some. They will have the special deal if you use the SP docket before for the SysKit as well. So basically, every server that you add in the SysKit needs to be licensed. And for example, if you have a 6-server farm with 2 web front ends, 2 SQL servers, 2 application servers, you need to have 6 licenses. The SQL cluster, how is the license on the SQL cluster? So if you have 2 boxes for the SQL cluster, you need to have the 2 licenses for that SQL cluster. Okay, Silvio, I think that we answered most of the questions. I'm sorry if I skipped any question, then we'll try to answer those questions in the personal email, or after the webinar, or something
in our
like
webinar
that.
summary.
Yeah.
Okay, please switch back to me, Frane, so we can wrap this webinar up.
Yes, change presenter. Yes.
Okay, so this brings us to the end of the Q&A session, and with it to the end of this webinar. I hope you all learned something new and saw something interesting. Thank you all for joining us today, and if you have any questions, please contact us at support@acceleratio.net. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon in another one of our webinars. Thanks again. Goodbye, guys.